The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
What are 3 oranges worth? Well, it depends. I'll tell you what I mean on today's edition of Liberty at Home. Hey there, folks. It's Pastor Adam Riveiro here again with our latest episode of Liberty at Home. As you may know, I'm the pastor of Liberty Baptist Church, Easton's newest church, which meets over on Route 138. Today, as always, we're broadcasting from ECAT Studios, less than a mile away from the campus of Stonehill College. Go Skyhawks. On this edition of Liberty at Home, we're continuing our trek through the book of Proverbs, which we've been exploring one chapter at a time since September. Today, we're reading 2 verses in Proverbs 18, so let's look together at verses 10 and 11. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and as an high wall in his own conceit. In the 2 verses we just read, Solomon makes it clear that there's a much greater value in a relationship with God than any value that can be derived from earthly riches. You know, I've heard it said, we know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. In our consumer-driven society, truer words are rarely spoken. After all, we're keenly aware of the cost of goods, like a gallon of gasoline, a gallon of milk, or a dozen eggs. Wow, a dozen eggs. Yet, for all this awareness about costs, many people have been fooled into believing that there's a direct connection between 2 completely different issues, cost and value. Allow me to illustrate what I mean. It's said that when the Titanic embarked on its one and only voyage, there were at least 12 different millionaires on board. One of those millionaires was businessman and Canadian Army Lieutenant Arthur Pouchin. He reportedly had over $300,000 worth of money, jewelry, and other valuables in his cabin when the Titanic struck ice on that fateful evening. And by the way, that's the equivalent of over $9 million today. As the ship began to sink, and spoiler alert, the Titanic ended up going under, Lieutenant Pouchin quickly scanned his room to see what was most important to take with him as he evacuated his cabin. His final choices? 3 oranges. He later explained the reasoning behind his decision when he said, the money seemed a mockery at the time. At that life or death moment, he assessed that 3 small oranges had far more value than all the riches he could find in his cabin. And he was right. I found that oftentimes people think that the things that are the most expensive are the most valuable. Yet rarely in life is this actually the case. I've known many who have worked 60-hour weeks to afford high-price homes, late model vehicles, and lavish vacations. Yet they've done so while neglecting their spouse and their children. By straining for that which was most costly, they sometimes end up losing those who are the most valuable. It's tragic. The issue of confusing cost and value is especially a problem when dealing with spiritual things. You ever found yourself too busy in life for a personal relationship with God? Do you strive for more material goods and costly experiences to the detriment of that which is spiritual? Do you buy into the old saying, he who has the most toys wins? Well, the reality, contrary to what some people will tell you, is that he that has the most toys still dies. In Mark 8, 36 and 37, Jesus puts it this way, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? There is nothing in this world that can be of more value than having a relationship with the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Further, if you're a believer, what value do you put on your daily walk with God? Do you place high value on prayer, daily Bible study, and fellowship at a Bible preaching church with your fellow Christians? Just to name a few. If you've allowed less valuable things to crowd out these valuable pursuits, it's high time to readjust your priorities and consider the things that really matter, both here in this life and for eternity. Solomon, a man who possessed more wealth than we can even conceive, looked back at his life and said that true value and safety came from God, his strong tower. After all, trusting in riches yields both false value and false security. So I ask you today, what do you value? Well, looking at the clock, it's time for us to call it a day here on Liberty at Home. But before I go, you know what I have to do, right? It's time for me to invite you to that weekly invitation to join us at Liberty Baptist Church. I hope you visit us this Sunday at 11 a.m. or 5 p.m. or this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Want to learn more about our church or watch a service online before you visit? Check us out at mylibertybaptist.org. Well, I'm Pastor Adam Riveiro, and I'm reminding you that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. See you next week on ECAT for another edition of Liberty at Home.